So, for the first time in what feels like forever yesterday, I actually took a couple of beer pong shots, believe it or not. It's been a long, long time. So, it sparked some curiosity as to if I can relate this to the NFL. And then we haven't done a pre podcast poll in a long time, so I threw this puppy on Twitter. So, I'm going to ask you, DJ, who would you rather have as your beer pong partner between Andrew Luck and Rob Gronkowski? There's still time left in the Twitter poll, but 68% right now are on Team Gronk. Where do you land?
I think it's easy to go Team Gronk for all those people, but it's like if he loses or if he just gets out of control, something's getting broke, and I just don't want this guy who's gonna break something or out of control or not paying attention or getting thrown out because he's got severe ADD on my team. I think Andrew Luck would get a little locked in, get a little loose. He'd be like opening up a little bit. I'd get to see a fun side of Andrew Luck. I'd have him on my team. Plus, he's got that precision accuracy because he's a quarterback.
I wanted to add something to that, but I think you maxed it out with Andrew Drunk. So with that, let's get loaded because this is the Loaded Box Podcast,
where we never finish first because we finish last.
Oh, welcome back to the Loaded Box Podcast. I'm Ben Morgan. That's DJ Primo, and we're also with, I guess we're not with him, but it's Andrew Drunk. That's a great statement as DJ rips off his shirt unexpectedly. I'll get to that here in a second, but we're going to talk a little bit of win totals, over-under style for those in the NFC since we did the AFC last week. But DJ, since this is a podcast and most of the people listen via iTunes, Google Play, why don't you go ahead and just explain to the audience what the hell you just pulled off there?
I took my shirt off because now I don't know if the fans remember. Anybody knew, all the old fans, it's getting warmer outside, and that means it's time for me to bring back No Shirt Sunday season. We started this back in between our college and professional careers, and I remember. I don't know. It just became a thing. We just started calling it No Shirt Sunday because we would be so fucking lazy on Sundays. We would wake up with such a bad hangover because we didn't have jobs and shit, and we would just lay around with no shirt. We'd throw on shorts and not put on shirts, and then we just started calling it No Shirt Sunday. And I remember one of our buddies we saw walking down the street, hammer drunk or hungover, no shirt. So it's like, let's bring it back. Hashtag NSS. Hashtag No Shirt Sunday. If you see somebody walking around your town, no shirt. If you're representing No Shirt Sunday, if you see a double points for women with no shirts on walking around, fucking post it, talk about it. No Shirt Sunday hashtag. Let's go. It's back.
Actually, hashtag NSS and then tag Loaded Box because we're interested in seeing as many of those as possible. And ladies, if you're interested in seeing a couple of dad bods, then you can start watching on YouTube rather than your typical iTunes or whatever you're doing. But DJ's bringing it back. We're starting this week, and as I kind of had hinted there, what we're going to talk about today, Vegas, as we all know, releases their updated over-under win totals shortly after the NFL draft. So in this episode, we're going to be going through each of the teams in the NFC, letting you know if we would bet on the over or the under on their current win totals. And if you missed our last total, go back, check that one out. We did the same thing for all of the teams in the AFC. So with that, a shirtless DJ, we're going to start in the NFC East. The number one team, according to Vegas, is the Philadelphia Eagles. They've set their win total at 9.5. What are you going with here?
So what I'm going to do here before we get into it is I did zero prep at all coming into this podcast. None. But you know what? I think it's better because when I think one of our biggest mistakes as someone who has people who go through team by team and look at their schedules is we're like, oh, we've won. This team's won too many games in a row. They've got to lose one here. Like I'm guilty of that. I'm sure you're guilty of doing that.
Always, yeah.
I feel like, yeah. So I'm trying to look and evaluate talent as we go and just be like, hey, this is a good team. A good team will win games. They'll beat good teams. Or this is a bad team. They'll be just based off of my evaluation of their roster. So that's what I'm going with. So we're starting with Philadelphia. This division is maybe the NFC East. Might be the toughest division every single year to predict. Like, I just don't know who's going to be good ever. We do know the Giants are going to be bad.
Yep.
That's a guarantee. I love Carson Wentz. I'm still on the train. I think that I still think they're the best team in this team. I don't in this league, in this division. Redskins, not very good, or our words. Dallas, maybe a little overhyped just because of how they ended last year. I think they could easily. I'll go over. I wouldn't bet it, but I will go over at the 9.5 mark. I'd give them 10 wins.
Yeah.
Just over. I give them 10 wins just because I think Carson Wentz hopefully stays healthy all season, kind of gets, his chemistry going with Elshot and Zach Ertz and who'd they bring in for running back?
They brought in Jordan Howard, trade with the Bears.
Yeah, so they got the running back stuff going. They got a pretty solid defense, but I just think the division below them is actually going to be very weak. I actually don't think Dallas is very good either. So just based off of the rest of the division being weak, I have to put them at 10 wins.
So DJ explained the method to his madness, and it's exactly how it's been since we've started this podcast. It's, hey, man, I'm going to wing it. I'm going to go off of what I've seen, what I know. I'm just going to wing it. I like that. I don't want to have paralysis by analysis, so I like that theory. I will tell you that like I said in the last episode, I went through the schedule, weeks 1, 2, 3, all the way to 17. I predicted every single game. I do it twice a year, right after the draft and then right before the season. So with that, I went through every single team, every single week. I had the Eagles going 10-6. So I'm going over on their 9.5 win total, but I'm not a huge fan of it. What it comes down to right now for me, we've seen Carson Wentz perform at an MVP caliber. However, last couple of years, health has been obviously an issue, and guess what's not there to back him up anymore? Nick Foles. And that sounds crazy. Neither you or me are a big fan of Nick Foles, but who's behind him? Because Foles has been the one that has pretty much just like gotten that team like to the Super Bowl, and then last year winning the last 3 games to the playoffs. So Wentz needs to stay healthy. I don't know what they're going to be able to survive without him. Like we said last week, I think Nick Foles is a better suited backup in this league. I don't think he's the guy you want to rely on to start. But if they can't keep Wentz healthy, I immediately hate this over. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of it. But if Wentz can stay healthy, if that offensive line can get it together, I like the over here. I got him going with 10 wins.
Beautiful. Who is their backup quarterback, by the way?
I will look it up, and I'll let you talk about the next team. It's Dallas Cowboys at 9 wins.
I already got their backup quarterback, by the way.
Oh,
it
fine.
is Nate Sudfeld.
So you're going to want Carson Wentz to stay healthy.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious because I was like, wait a second, who is their backup? All right, so Dallas, I think people are going to. I think it's a little bit of fool's gold. They they saw Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup developing anything. Obviously, they have Ezekiel Elliott and that offensive line dominant. To me, the defense is still questionable. I'm trying to think. Who was that middle linebacker that came in and dominated after Sean Lee got hurt?
Oh, yeah, Leighton Vander Esch.
Yeah, so he came in and dominated after Sean Lee got hurt, and it feels like the same fucking guy, honestly. I'm like, wait, isn't that just Sean Lee still? But I don't know. It's hard because the division's so weak because I want to say under because I just don't trust Dak. I do not trust Dak Prescott. I don't. And I think we said this last year, and I'd be fooling myself if I said I thought they could win more than 9 games. I just don't think they can. The NFC is a really good conference in general, so there's a lot of tough matchups that you have to go up against besides your own division. And I just don't see Dak getting them over 9 wins. I think people are going to look at Amari Cooper out there, look at Michael Gallup and his improvement, obviously Ezekiel Elliott, but I think Dak is the downfall, and I think that's where it's going to hurt because the quarterback has to get it to these guys, right?
Right.
He has to get it to those guys. He has to, I don't know. He just has to do it. I just don't think he can. He's not a strong arm downfield thrower. Everything he does is cut. It seems like in 20 yards or less. I don't trust Dak. I got to go under 9 wins for that reason. Plus, the NFC is tough. Even though I use the NFC East as a excuse for the Eagles to go over 9.5.
We're gonna disagree early on this one because I had the Cowboys going 10-6. I sort of feel like that 8-9 wins, probably 9 wins, is kind of like the floor. I see the holes. I see the holes in Dak that you're talking about. However, if you look at his numbers and his wins compared to other quarterbacks since he's been in the league, they're not all that bad. And I know that it's a lot to do with them being able to compete in some low-scoring games. The defense has been fine. And yeah, it's the obvious answer. It's been Zeke Elliott, the offensive line, and the run game. But I think Dak sort of gets slighted by a lot of people, including us. I feel like we're both a little bit harsh on him. And you talked about how hot they were at the end of last year. They won 8 of their last 9 regular season games before losing to the Rams in that divisional playoff matchup. But yeah, it's going to be huge. Teams are obviously going to see what Amari Cooper did last year and say, hey, we need to take away Zeke, and then we're going to need to focus some attention on Cooper. So it's going to be on a guy like Michael Gallup to step up and really take him to that next level. He's not like the most touted prospect at wide receiver, but I think in that offense, for what they're going to ask of him, I don't think it's too much as a second-year player. So it's not a huge bet for me, but I am going to take the over. We're going to have to have a little difference on this one.
A little deference.
A little deference. You ready to talk about the R words?
Let's go with the R words.
All right, the Washington Redskins, a.k.a., as DJ likes to call them, the R words. Vegas set their win total at 6.5. What are you feeling here?
I got to go under. I just hate this team. I mean, it's Dan Snyder. I know they're going to get Darius Geis back, but they've got fucking Dan Snyder running the goddamn... I just can't... Again, it was the same as last year. Their quarterback is what? Case Keenum. They got probably the best quarterback in the draft, but he's still a rookie. Probably won't play much, if at all, this year with Case Keenum, and I think even Colt McCoy's still there. The offensive weapons, I mean, Paul Richardson, Josh Doxson, I don't know. I don't get excited about that. They're not very good, and I just don't think they did enough. Their weakness last year seemed to be, like, they got murdered in the secondary. Mm-hmm. And they brought in Landon Collins, I know, and they have Josh Norman, who I just don't think is as good as he used to be. But it just doesn't seem like enough. Like, the rest of the cornerbacks, secondary, I think that's where they're going to get killed defensively. But I just don't think they'll score.
Right.
So I don't think they have enough on defense in order to keep them in games, like the Ravens kind of could do. But they just don't have any weapons, so everybody's just going to focus on the run game. And they're just not much of a threat. So I just don't see them winning many games. I could see them, around that 4 to 5 win area. There's nothing good. There's nothing. When I look at this offense, I'm like, shit, I don't want to draft them in fantasy football at all. And that tells me that they just aren't going to score much this year.
Yeah, if you're a fan of the Redskins, like, what are you looking forward to? Like, are you looking forward? You're probably looking forward to Geis returning, and you're looking forward at some point to see what you have in Haskins. But yeah, man, I got to go under here as well. I had them going 4-12 on the season. I will say it though. I think the Redskins are like my NFC version of the Bengals. As I said last week, I seem to always have this thing against the Bengals where I put them at like such a low win total that it almost seems unfair. But I feel like with like the Bengals and Redskins, I'm not that far off because it seems like even if there is a little bit of hype surrounding them, it just falls off. Like they've never really been that ultra competitive team. At most, it's been like maybe they'll sneak into the playoffs. It's never like, oh, we're going to go out there and win a division. But like I said last week with the Broncos, it's like, all right, you've got Flacco and Drew Lock. How long are we going to lose until we see Drew Lock? Well, it's kind of the same thing in Washington. How long are they going to put up with Case Keenum, knowing that he's probably not going to be your long-term solution? And you turn to Dwayne Haskins, and even if Haskins does some things well, he has a higher ceiling than a guy like Case Keenum. Is he going to step in year one and produce wins? More than likely not. So for that 6.5, I'm actually a really big fan of the under here.
Yeah, I can definitely get on that. I'm excited about the next one, though.
The next one, the last team in the NFC East, is the New York Giants at 6 wins. What do you have here?
How big of a dumpster fire are the New York Giants? I honestly believe, there's no question on what I'm going over here. I honestly believe they could win no games this year.
No games.
I can see them not winning a single game. Their top 2 wide receivers are secondary guys in Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard. Their quarterback is still Eli Manning. Their backup is Eli Manning's little brother and Daniel Jones. They just brought in another guy. I mean, their offensive line still fucking stinks. Their defense is garbage. Like, there's nothing about this team that is good. There's nothing about this team that's good. I cannot...
Wait. What about your boy?
Oh, Saquon Barkley is good. Yeah.
Okay.
So Saquon Barkley's going to be out there fucking running for his life, this poor guy. I wish he would have got drafted by somebody else, even though we knew he'd go there.
Can they redshirt him? Like, is that a possibility? I feel like you might want to save him for the future.
Yeah, there's no reason for the Giants to play him this year. Just throw fucking Wayne Gallman out there, whatever. Just don't play Saquon Barkley. Let him sit, hang out for a year, maybe try to build around him. But yeah, let's see how crazy what's his name is in 3 years. He's gonna look like a fucking psychopath after saying that. Gettleman.
Yeah.
I'm still one of my favorite lines. We'll see how crazy I am. How do you go in how do you say that to media and not think that's gonna blow up in your face?
Oh,
Like,
they're gonna make posters of that. Like that's gonna be on a poster. How crazy am I? And he's gonna have like Adam Gase taco chasing eyes.
it's gonna be incredible. Yeah, they're going. I mean, they're going way under 0-1 wins next year.
I couldn't imagine a non-New York Giants fan seeing the win total of 6 and saying, "I'm absolutely going over." Like that. That doesn't exist on this planet. I have them going 3-13, so I gave them a little bit more love than what you gave them. But yeah, man, freaking Saquon Barkley can only take you so far. They added Golden Tate, but you already had Sterling Shepard. So now you've got these two guys that are primarily like their best attribute is playing out of the slot. How many slot receivers can you get? You're not the Patriots here. Yeah, they lost OBJ. You talked about him. The thing is, they weren't even all that competitive with him. So losing him, imagine how less competitive they're going to be. But this is another team, and you said it last week, that it sucks if you're a fan of certain teams. The league is built for you to score, and if you're a fan of one of these teams that like still can't score, like that's got to be so depressing. And I know it because I'm a Dolphins fan. But yeah, you're in the same shoes, Giants fans. Like you're gonna struggle to score this year. And I'll just go back to what I said when you were talking, man. Like, can you redshirt like Saquon Barkley? I don't give him 300 touches this year in a season.
He's gonna be so tired. He's gonna be so tired after every game.
Oh yeah, like that just stinks. That's why I go back to like when they drafted him. Yeah, that's cool. You have a top 5 running back in the league, but where are you gonna go with them? Like they needed so much more help, and I don't think they're going to get that in the future with Daniel Jones, and especially right now with Eli Manning. So hard under for both of us. Confident in that.
Yeah, they had the chance to take Dwayne Haskins, and they fucked it up real bad.
Real bad. Anyone.
Real fucking bad.
Yeah, let's move on to a new division, the NFC West. Vegas has the best team in here, the LA Rams at 10.5 wins.
I think you're going to see a little bit of regression. I don't know if maybe the Super Bowl just got my... I don't know. I don't know what it was about the Super Bowl that brought me down. I don't know if it was the playoffs. Maybe Jared Goff isn't the quarterback that we thought he was. Honestly, it's definitely more scheme than anything. Because when you saw how they schemed against Jared Goff and him running around, if he has to move outside the pocket, it's a disaster.
He's like a giraffe getting chased by lions.
Yeah, they schemed it so much to where the defense was so confused that they like had to hesitate on their pass rush because they couldn't just attack because you had so many options with Todd Gurley, the quick passes, the screens, Robert Woods. They had Brandon Cooks and the white guy who got injured.
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp halfway through the year, and then the Patriots schemed up this big scheme, and then you could see it in some other playoffs games. It was just like if you move him anywhere from being comfortable right in the spot that he is. It was maybe the worst. It was the most unathletic guy I've ever seen in my entire life. He made Tom Brady look like Usain Bolt or something. Trying to run on the bucket with his legs flying everywhere. He looked so scared. So I feel a drop off coming from them. I think Seattle's pretty damn good. San Francisco's going to be much improved this year. It's going to be tough sledding for them. I still think Arizona's going to be garbage.
Yep.
I can see a major regression this year coming for LA because I think we've kind of seen the blueprint a little bit with Goff. Obviously, it's you got to cut on McVay adjusting to it, but I think guys they might just go after him and say fuck it, don't watch everything that's happening, just go and move Goff. The goal will be to move Goff off a spot because once he moves, they're fucked. And who knows what's up with Todd Gurley? I mean, they're adding running backs to this roster in general. He's got the arthritis in his knee problem. That's not something that just goes away.
No.
So who knows if that's going to flare up in the middle of the season? That takes away so much. It's tough. I think that people are going to go over. I've got to go under on this one just because it feels like everybody's going to be on the over money.
Wow, an under on last year's NFC champion. Gosh, we're going to have to defer again. Why am I struggling so much with the defer word? But
I don't know.
Anyway, so I got them going 12-4. But I do feel, I agree with you, where I think that the over here is going to be, like, publicly anyways, the popular bet. But I'm still taking the over. It would just be a smaller sized bet. The thing that I sort of still like about them is that they understood their window, and it was, hey, let's build to win now. Let's win now while we still have Jared Goff on a rookie deal. We can spend money elsewhere. So I like that. I like the roster that they still have around him. But yeah, you touched on Todd Gurley. That is the ultimate big worry right now for this team. They added Henderson at running back to go along with a couple of other capable guys that they have there. So I don't think they'd be totally screwed, but they're nowhere close to what Todd Gurley can be. Like we've seen Todd Gurley look like the most complete running back in the NFL once he got with McVay and his ability to catch and create after the catch while still being an awesome like running back that you can just hand the ball to 20 times a game. But man, like end of the day, I like what McVay's doing. I really like the receivers, especially with Cooper Kupp back. And I know we've got a ton of people that just love fantasy football and want to have some fantasy content mixed into the middle of this. So I know that we're going to be releasing our initial fantasy football rankings soon. I love these receivers. I've got Brandon Cooks right now as my wide receiver 15, Robert Woods as wide receiver 16, and Cooper Kupp as wide receiver 21. If you remember, DJ, Cooper Kupp was like the wide receiver 1 last year in like standard scoring leagues before he got hurt. He was crushing it, and the other guys were still doing good. So I think the offense took a little bit of a turn for the worse once Kupp went out and they had to try to find in that next stud to bring in. And then obviously when Gurley got dinged a little bit, that hurt. But if they're all healthy now, if Gurley can stay healthy, I have to take this one over.
You're gonna hate it.
Fair enough. Let's bet.
We're betting.
All right, we'll talk post-podcast. Let's go to the next team. It's Seattle, 8.5.
So Seattle ended up outplaying what I thought they would last year. So I'm going through here and I'm kind of looking at their defense. Obviously, they got rid of Doug Baldwin. They don't have they cut Cam Chancellor as well. They don't have Earl Thomas, so the safety position looks way different than what they're used to. But their defense was much better than I thought they were going to be last year. I thought they were going to be garbage, and then they added Ziggy Ansah on free agency, who knows? He's got the injury problems that he's had, but he's shown flashes. But they were already pretty solid up there, so you're just adding a couple extra pieces to that defense. You still got Bobby Wagner just dominating in the middle of the field there, and that's what he's awesome. But offensively, you still have Russell Wilson running around somehow doing things that, like most quarterbacks, he may be the luckiest. He's a decent quarterback. He's good, but he may be the luckiest good quarterback of all time, because I think 90% of quarterbacks that did if they did what he did exact same way, the ball would be intercepted.
Oh,
like 90% of the time. But he'll just run around and throw it up in the air, and somehow a guy will catch it. So he still has that weird, I don't know. They're not great, but they're good. So I have to go over. Was it 8.5?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to go over. I know you're looking at Tyler Lockett, who really, what did he end up? I think he was like top 15 in wide receivers last year in fantasy football.
Yeah, he had some of those weeks where like he would disappear and then he'd have like a breakout week, and it was kind of like Tyreek Hill-esque, but maybe not quite as inconsistent. But we saw a lot of that with him.
And I think DK Metcalf, before the draft happened, I was like, there's like 4 places that he would go and be very successful. Seattle was one of them.
Oh, for sure. That's a great fit.
So he landed the spot because now you've got Russell who can run around, and then DK can just run around and then just go straight. And nobody's going to be able to catch him because he's so fucking fast that you're going to see him have a few long touchdowns this year. It's just going to happen. Like, he's just so much faster than everybody on the field. So that couldn't be a more perfect situation. They've got a couple of solid running backs. I'm not 100% sure about Rashad Penny, but he had some good flashes. And then they still got Chris Carson, who runs just as hard as anybody there is in the league. But I can't go under with Seattle just because I'm going to sound stupid if I do.
Man, we gotta have to. This has been the podcast of differences because I am taking the under. I had them going 7-9. I see 8 wins being possible, but I sort of see that kind of as the ceiling right now. But I do get nervous about this one because, one, the Seahawks really exceeded my expectations last year. Russell Wilson kind of seems like that new version of Phillip Rivers where it comes down to the end of the game. He's got a chance with the ball. He might eke out a couple of wins. And like you said, he's kind of that guy that seems to be lucky, but like having the skill to be able to actually do it once he's called upon. And then, that defense, they performed significantly better than I anticipated was going to happen last year. So I don't mind that. But if you notice last year when they started having success, it's when they really just committed to the run game and it kind of just took off from there. So I think they need to do that again, but start it earlier. Don't wait till the middle of the season to have to unleash these guys. You mentioned Carson, you mentioned Penny. Neither of those guys has to be like the end all be all. You can use them in a nice platoon and probably get, along with Wilson and his threat to run, you can have one of the more successful run games in the league with that trio. I like that. But yeah, DK Metcalf, if you remember in our NFL draft prospect preview podcast, we talked about wide receivers. I said like DK's role year one, if he can like be like the ultimate bailout option. And yeah, what team will he succeed in doing that? It's with the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, who's running around and trying to make plays, and then you've got this big body guy just deep down the field. Love that combination there, especially with Doug Baldwin likely retiring now. I like that, but yeah, I think 8 wins is kind of that cap, so I'm going to go under.
Moving on.
Moving on to the 49ers. 8 wins. What do you have?
So I'm looking at this team, and last year when it came to the gambling, I when we go into the season, I said fade the Texans and fade the Niners because the Jimmy Garoppolo hype is so hot, and I think it's gonna. Since he got injured, was out the whole season. I think you're gonna see that hype again. This one's hard. I know you're going to say probably similar to what I'm about to say, but 8-8 seems like right on. It seems dead on to me. But if you look at their defense, honestly, they may have one of the best front sevens out there with Nick Bosa, D4 they added. They have DeForest Buckner.
Oh, yeah.
They've got, now they have Quan Alexander and Malcolm Smith in the middle. They still got Sherman at cornerback. I don't really like him because he's better in the zone than he is in man, but I'm not gonna. I think they've got some good weapons at wide receiver, but I just don't. We don't know what Jimmy Garoppolo is yet. Like everybody's crowning him to be this like good, but we haven't seen anything. Let's be honest. What have we seen from Jimmy Garoppolo so far in his career yet?
A 6-game stretch where he looked like the next Tom Brady.
Yeah, we haven't seen much. We haven't seen much. Like we got to
Very
see
small
like
sample size.
The end of the year for the Niners, which wasn't that great. He threw a good amount of interceptions in that season, and he's still working with a bunch of guys that he hasn't seen. It's going to be Dante Pettis, a couple of rookies, Marquise Goodwin. It's just guys he hasn't played with yet. And now you've got Tevin Coleman and Jerry McKinnon, who are basically kind of the same running back, in my opinion. So I don't know how they're going to deploy those guys. I think 8-8 is right on. I think if you go, I think if you go over, you're a little crazy. I think people are going to be overhyping. This is going to be another fade the Niners first 3 games of the year for me coming up.
So is your official pick under?
I can't pick anything.
Oh, come on, you make me always pick someone.
I gotta go under because I just don't think they go over 8 wins. I think it's impossible.
All right, well then it's the podcast of differences. So I'll go over because you hit the nail on the head. 8 is the perfect number. I saw their win total at 8 before I went through my season predictions, and I'm like, I think I'm probably going to have them going over. Went through it, bang, 8-8. I'm like, ooh. In my opinion, Vegas nailed this one. If I have to go one way though, I'm going to take the over. I am a fan of them having a little bit more of a bounce back year. I love the idea of a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo based on a small sample size, but with a guy like Kyle Shanahan who knows how to like manipulate some defenses and really get his offense clicking, especially when you add Tevin Coleman. You added Deebo Samuel in the draft this year. You have record-setting tight end in George Kittle. You got Marquise Goodwin. You've got Dante Pettis. This is a sneaky offense to put up some like legit numbers, I think, this year with the creative play calling of a guy like Kyle Shanahan. Where I'll say that's the negative, I don't see them competing for the division quite yet with a team like the Rams. But I think they have that outside shot at like a wild card spot. And in order to get that, you're going to need like 9-10 wins. So at 8, I think 8's a great number. I wouldn't go bet heavy on it, but I would take the over here with the Niners as we have one more difference.
That's really tough. That one was hard.
It's a tough one. Ready to move on to the Cardinals?
Oh, yeah, easy.
Their win total is 5. Let me guess. You're going to go way under?
Way the fuck under. Kyler Murray isn't – he ain't it, dog. Like, that's not going to come in and make you win games. Your offensive line is still the worst offensive line in, like, NFL history. He's going to be running around and getting hit. It's a new guy and a new offense. It's just not going to be pretty this first year. They're just going to get their ass kicked a lot. They're going to get their ass kicked. People are going to be booing Kyler Murray. It's going to be a fucking disaster. I'm going to love it.
So we are finally going to agree here because, man, I went through that schedule and they are going to struggle to find wins. They might be picking first again, according to me anyways. I've got them going 1-15. It's a huge unknown right now because we have a first-time NFL coach. We have a first-time rookie quarterback who's going to be asked to step in and like contribute from day one. Not just contribute, but like literally be the team leader on offense. That offensive line still a liability. Patrick Peterson recently suspended, and he got suspended an extra 2 games because they also detected a masking agent in his
Oh yeah, I
sample.
forgot about that.
So that sucks. But man, you're going to have growing pains with any rookie quarterback, especially one that we really haven't seen at that height weight combo before. I don't think you can just step in and just become this Pro Bowl caliber player. I don't see that happening. It's going to be a process to build this team right now. They went, and it's an obvious statement, they went first round, picked 10 and picks 1, back-to-back quarterbacks. Just think, if you wouldn't have had to do that, you're adding a potentially elite player at a premier position, but you miss out on that because you had to go quarterback in back-to-back years with top 10 picks. That is going to hinder any franchise. I don't care who it is. Like, that's going to hinder you. So it's going to take a little bit of a rebuild here. I could see them struggling this year, and 5 wins isn't a lot, especially like Kyler Murray can make plays like he did it in college, and Cliff Kingsbury has this potentially high-flying offense, but so that's where you kind of get a little nervous, but you got to do it at the next level, and everyone's fast at the next level. Everyone is like next level intelligence at the next level. It's going to be tough.
I don't cheer for people to fail very much, but I want Kyler Murray to fail, and I want him to flame out, and I want him to go play baseball in 3 years. I want him out of the league.
That'd be a great story. I love that. Now we have you on record claiming it too.
I just don't like this like theory or this thought that like he's a winner. He's a winner. Because when people say that, it's like nobody gives a fuck in the NFL if you're a winner. Tim Tebow was a winner. He was garbage, right? Like, lots of guys come into the NFL as winners, and then they lose because they're on shit teams. That's just what happens. Like, they're in the NFL because they won their whole life, but now you're going against all the top at everything, and you have to deal with GMs, you have to deal with owners, you have so many good guys that, I mean, you're dealing against, like, you've got guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and, you know, the Bozas and the great pass rushers out there flying at you, and it's just like it's completely different than college. You're not playing against SEC defenses where they give up 500 points a game.
Can I ask you one question?
What?
Why'd you do that?
Why did I do what?
I'm here. We're recording this on a Sunday. I got to sleep in. I went to the gym. A dude said my body was looking good. Like I don't go that way, but I'll take it as a compliment. I come home. I have tacos. Like everything's going well. And then you told me that Tim Tebow was straight garbage, and you just ruined my Sunday.
He's fucking garbage. I mean, he's garbage at baseball too. You see how bad he is in fucking minor leagues.
Moving on to the NFC North before you make me quit this podcast. Chicago Bears and the Packers are both at 9 wins. We will start with the Bears. How are you feeling here?
I have a question for you.
Oh, great. I'm going to turn this back on me now.
No, you ready for this?
Maybe.
I've been wanting to ask you this whole time. There are 30 cows.
30 cows.
And 28 chickens.
28 chickens.
How many didn't?
30 cows and 28 chickens. How many didn't?
Yeah.
15?
If you would have watched my Snapchat, you would have had more time to think about this.
What? I don't get it.
Think about it. There are 30 cows and 28 chickens. And all of you can listen and tweet it at me. How many didn't?
Is this like something that you're actually going to tell me the answer to, or am I have to think about this the entire podcast?
Think about it for the rest of the podcast.
You're an asshole. Okay, I'm going to think about this. I'll get back to you. Talk about the Bears.
Let's do it.
You leading it off?
Oh, are we going with Chicago right now?
Yeah.
9 wins?
9 wins.
It's tough. Now, this is going to be a tight division between the Packers and the Bears this year. Packers got that defense. I should have looked up Chicago's record last year. What were they, 10, 11? 10 and 6, 11 and 5, something like that?
I think they had 12.
12 wins. I was huge on Mitch Trubisky last year. But I'm going to be the opposite on Mitch Trubisky this year. I'm not drafting him in fantasy football. I think you're going to see major regression. Lots of things I just didn't like out of him. Accuracy-wise, short yardage passes. It seems like he just wants to throw it downfield, which he was pretty decent at times. But I don't think he's it. I'm kind of backing off him this year.
Whoa, I didn't see that coming.
I know. I'm backing off Mitch Trubisky this year. The defense, still very good. They've got Clinton Dix, though, and he single-handedly made the Packers and the Redskins the worst two defenses in the league. And everybody's arguing like, "Oh, Clinton Dix, you guys are now all of a sudden out against Clinton Dix." It's like, no. If you watch the guy, he was garbage, and then he went to the Redskins, and you could watch literally, who is it? Zach Hicks is a Redskins fan.
Yep.
All he did was pick apart, and other guys who watched other fans of the Redskins, all they did was just pick Clinton Dix, and I was like, now you know and understand how it feels to have him on your team. You can't take angles, so he could single-handedly ruin their defense. I got it, but I've got to go over because I think both Green Bay and Chicago will have anywhere from 10 to 12 wins. The defense is too good. Khalil Mack's too good. Detroit is just a what's the word I was going to look for? Like a doormat. Like everybody's just going to walk over them.
So you're going to call them like a minor speed bump.
Kirk Cousins, the Vikings, I'm just not excited. I think they're going to be pretty bad. We'll get to them. So I think it's going to be a battle between Green Bay and Chicago. I think they'll both have over 10 wins. I just kind of gave my answers for Green Bay, but
yeah, Vegas sort of has this division kind of like stacked up top because not only do the Packers also set their win total at 9, but the Vikings do as well. In my game-by-game predictions, I had the Bears going 12-4 again. This is actually probably my second favorite bet of the NFC teams. I'm going to go over here. That defense alone is good for a couple of wins. And here's the thing. They're going to need to do it. They're going to need to build up the offense sometimes. And I think, like you said, Mac, all the guys, they're going to be able to do that. But I think just in general, this is a huge year for Mitch Trubisky. It's now his third year in the league, second with Matt Nagy. And they've done exactly what I would want my favorite team to do, which is surround your young quarterback with that talent. They drafted David Montgomery. They brought in Mike Davis. They already have Cohen. They already have Anthony Miller, Allen Robinson, Trey Burton. They added Riley Ridley. They've added some guys that are like competent enough with that defense and that young quarterback to get it done. It's just a super tough division. Man, I have to go over here. And like I said, it's like probably like my second most confident bet in the NFC. And to finish it off, your answer is 2.
I think no, that's wrong.
What do you mean it's wrong?
No, it's wrong.
Why?
So, I mean, your answer's wrong, so keep thinking about it. So
now I threw you off your mindset.
Yeah, you threw me way off. I think you're going to see a regression in wins from the Bears, no doubt. I think you're going to see. I honestly think you just saw Mitch Trubisky's ceiling. His second year was his ceiling. I think that's as much as you're going to get. I don't think he's confident. He's not very good. I don't think you're going to see as much on the offense this year as you did, especially at the first 12 games as last year. For 10 games, maybe a little more offense than the end of the season. But I don't know. I think you're going to see a couple less wins than you did last year. I still think it'll be 10, and I go over 9. But I mean, there's a reason they're at 9 wins.
What stinks? It's like, yeah, you see those throws every once in a while by Trubisky, and you're like, oh my gosh, he has the potential, he can do it. It's just not consistent yet, and that accuracy is kind of one of the things that like either have it or you don't. You're kind of always if you're like a 60% completion guy, or if you're like a 70 to 72% completion guy, you seem to kind of hover in that area. You might see a little bit of improvement from year to year, but you kind of are what you are, and that's what you don't really want from Trubisky. You want him to be the outlier. You want him to build off of the strides that he's taken. It's a big year. You don't want to get stuck with average quarterback play, like from a young quarterback, because then you don't know if he's the guy or not. So that's why I still like the over, but I just think in general it's a huge year for Trubisky just to figure out, okay, is this the guy we want to build around? I think you got to give him at least another couple of years, but a huge year for him. Let's go on to the Packers, who are also at 9.
I mean, over. Come on. Obviously, I'm going to say over, but they now potentially could be a top 10 defense with what they've added defensively. And if you give Aaron Rodgers a top 10 defense, like the year he had a top 10 defense, I mean, it's trouble. If Rodgers was playing with a broken leg last year and a messed up knee, sprain, and he was still doing things that just guys in the league can't do. We get a fully healthy year, Devontae, get Geronimo back. Aaron Jones is going to definitely be highlighted this year. There's no way Aaron Jones isn't getting the ball and getting unless he's injured and getting a ton of yards this year. You're going to see what they should have been doing with Aaron Jones last year. That'll open up that play action game where Aaron Rodgers and even Marquez Valdes-Scantling can get more involved. Hopefully, this in his second year on some deep plays. But they got a couple of tight ends now. They got Jimmy Graham in his second year, he's always been better in his second year in an offense. His first year, he's always struggled, and then the second year, he has a big jump. And then you add Chase Sternberger from Texas
A&M.
Thank you for finishing all my sentences.
Anytime.
I think the weapons still aren't amazing, but you still have Aaron Rodgers throwing to those guys. People forget how good Geronimo was before he got injured. Like, he was very solid. He was doing a lot of things. He was one of the guys Rodgers trusted. I mean, they're going to have 11, 12 wins this year. Lock it in.
You're locking it in at how many?
11 to 12 wins.
Okay, I heard you wrong. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I had them going 11-5. I'm a definite over bet here, and I am thinking that double digits and a return to the playoffs after what? It's been 2 years, 3 years now since they've been to the playoffs?
Yeah. Last year,
I'm thinking a return to the playoffs is definitely
2 years out of the playoffs, yeah.
Yep. A return to the playoffs is in store here. Defense, significant improvements. They finally gave some pieces for them to utilize. The defensive coordinator, the name is escaping me now.
For who?
Packers.
Now you got me. See, now you made me. Now I'm going to sound like an idiot because I'm the Packers fan.
Oh, yeah. Man, Mr. Packers, you're going.
Mike Patton.
There you go. That's all it took. You just needed to, stop drinking for a second.
Yeah, I just had to think.
But, man, Mike Patton's always had, really good defenses, and you finally, gave him some players. You got, 3 new edge rushers now to play around with. The secondary's improving. You got rid of the cancer dicks. You're fine there. Dick cancer. And then,
don't want any dick cancer on your team.
And I'm surprised you didn't bring this up, but you finally can sort of hit reset on the offensive side of the ball because you got rid of McCarthy and you brought in a young head coach who, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to try to be put his huge stamp on this offense. I think he's going to be this is my philosophy. This is what we want to do. But hey, I have one of the best quarterbacks to ever do this. Let's let him play to his strengths. That's going to be huge. I would say the biggest issue for the Packers right now is that other wide receiver position, outside of Adams. Most of those guys, you named a bunch of them, are in year 2. You don't have a ton of experience outside of Adams. But man, what is Aaron Rodgers' biggest strength? It's making wide receivers who aren't household names into household names. That's what he does. He just elevates their play to the next level. So while it's a little bit of a concern, not super worried about it. And this win total, if it stays under double digits, I think you got to pound the over.
I think the wide receiver you guys need to pay attention to. I think you could see Rodgers probably had. I know Marquez Valdes was one game, but there was one guy out of the young guys that kind of popped out in big clutch situations, and I think it's going to be the guy who jumps up over a lot of people and comes out of nowhere. Equanimeous St. Brown. He's just unbelievably talented. And Rodgers seemed to have some trust with him. He's so tall, he's fast, he can run routes, he has great hands. I think you're going to, as a fantasy football guy, ESB is a guy I'm 100% keeping in the back of my head. I could see him having a big season.
Well, if you remember right from the draft and talking about him pre-draft, it was the talent is there. It's more like off field, in his head, practice habits. It was always stuff like that. It was never a talent issue. What'd you say?
He didn't want to play special. He said he will not play special teams.
Right, that too. It's you can't go into a draft talk just saying that. That's gonna hurt you. Let's move on to that third team in the NFC North, who they have the win total set at 9. It's the Minnesota Vikings. What do you have?
I think you're seeing a team that's just slowly falling apart every single year. I'm going under. Kirk Cousins stinks. The defense is getting worse and worse. I think as we go on, they're losing some guys. But it's Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. He's always going to fuck you over in a bunch of games. He has to deal with Chicago and Green Bay twice. They're probably going to lose to Detroit at least one of those games. Minnesota, they're not good enough. They're done. They're a little
wow.
They're 15 minutes past Case Keenum. 2 years ago. Case Keenum was the guy. Kirk Cousins does not work for this offense, and their strategy and their philosophy doesn't work. They're done. They're 8 wins. Eight wins max.
Wow. Another difference in opinion here because I have them going 10-6, which is 10 wins, which is conveniently the answer also to your riddle. It is 10. I'm going with 10, my final answer. I did cheat. I'm not going to lie.
You fucking asshole.
You're an asshole. I hope the audience, like listening, went through the same process as me, and it took them like a third of the episode to figure it out as well.
You just slow it down and say it, and
Yeah.
then I actually figured it out without cheating, you asshole.
Oh.
Not that hard, actually.
Any riddle like that, like I'm going straight to Google. I'm just going to Google. That's how that happens. So yeah, I'm 10-6. I like the over. It's probably my least confident bet though of all the teams in the NFC North. We saw the defense last year have some lapses that we didn't see them have from 2 years ago. 2 years ago, that defense looked like it was like bordering like that next like elite like top 3 to 5 defense in the league. And I think it still has potential to be a really good defense, but it's going to need some improvements based on what we saw last year. In the offseason, obviously, they needed to add to the offensive line. They did that a little bit in free agency. They did that some of the draft. So I think that's going to improve probably their most glaring weakness. And obviously, they needed to do that because you need to give Kirk Cousins time to find all of these playmakers. I really love the fact that we're going to get a healthy offseason for Cook as well. He's going to be able to spend the offseason actually like gelling with teammates, practicing football versus focusing on his rehab. So I think that Cook's maybe due for a bit of a breakout year here. They can get back to the running game. It's only going to make Cousins more effective as well to those playmakers. But I think I'm talked myself into the over. My least confident of all the NFC North teams, but I'm going to go over.
That's dumb.
Well, let's talk about the.
I get all these Vikings fans coming after me, but it's gonna be like it's gonna be so funny when they're so bad this year. It's what's gonna happen. I can already see it. I'm 100% confident that they have 8 wins or less this year. Like I'm not even worried about that number hitting. Not even worried about. I have no worry about Vikings fans coming back to me at the end of this year and saying something because I'm going to be right, and then they won't say anything, and I will sit here while the Packers are winning playoff games. And they're not saying anything to me, and it'll be great.
You claimed after the Vikings lost, got throttled in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago to the Eagles, that the window was closed. And then, like, no, you can't say that the window's closed. And now you're double downing. Like, you're doubling down on this claim.
It was close. That was it. They reached their peak. See what happened last year? They're done. The window's shut after that year. And it's just done. They're done.
Well, hopefully you got some good cleaning products. So I think your house is going to get egged. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions over/under set at 6.5.
Like I said, they're a doormat of the NFC North. Like they're just bad. Matthew said, "Here, I'm going to make this statement right here. This will tell you all you need to know. The Lions will draft a quarterback next year in the NFL draft."
Nice, that's heat.
Yeah, I think Matthew Stafford's at the end of his career. Not career. I just don't think it's there anymore. He doesn't have it. Like he used to. I drafted him thinking, oh, he's always like a top 8 fantasy football guy. Then it wasn't there. Ooh. It was not there at all. He was shit. He wasn't good. They aren't addressing the positions that they need to. Exactly. I mean, they drafted a fucking tight end this year. Are you kidding me? I stole your note there because I wanted to.
Did you see the tweet that I posted from our podcast page where he was doing like a press conference?
Oh, yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh, my gosh. He doesn't look like he should be playing in the NFL.
He looks kind of like a child molester. I look at guys and some of them just look like child molesters. Speaking of that, I was sitting in church today.
Like, where are we going now?
Catholic Church, honestly, is the... I so just don't care about Detroit that I'm already moving on to Catholic Church. But, like, the shit that happens in church, you can, like, make a comedy routine out of it. Like,
easily.
It was Catholic Church, number one, an hour, and it should be a hard cutoff. This shit lasted 1 hour, or 1 hour and 20 minutes. I was about to kill myself. There's an old lady, one, like, pew behind me and over across the aisle. She was dying. Like, I've never heard somebody in church, like, cough and then make 94 more noises after the main cough. Like, it was like, and I'm like, my uncle was sitting next to me looking at me like, dude, I'm going to throat punch this bitch if she doesn't walk out and get a drink of water. And this is in church. Then I see this lady, this mom up front with about 5 kids, the youngest of which, about 4 or 5 years old in my guesstimation, walks in with an orange Fanta. I thought he was carrying it for mom. I look at him in the middle of it, and this kid is straight pounding an orange Fanta with caffeine. Just smashing it, just tossing it back. That kid's probably... She's probably wondering why right now, at this very moment, why he's going fucking crazy. Because you just let him smash an orange shoulder. And these Catholic priests, I sit there and they have all these little kids walk around them, like, doing things. And I think, there's so many instances of these guys coming out. Like, how many of these priests right now? Like, is this guy looking at this little boy or this little girl, like thinking, "Yeah, I'm gonna diddle you later"?
Holy
Like,
diddle.
yeah, that's like that's what's happening in my mind. Because I see. Have you ever been to a Catholic church?
Yeah.
They always have like young kids walking around carrying like their big cross up and down, and I think that's number one. I think that's just kind of weird. Number two, they preach faith in these church, and then they ask you for all your money, and I think that's hilarious. It's like, give us money. It's like faith, 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 nothing material. Here's baskets. Please put money in it.
Do you
It's
think?
the greatest thing. There's so many observations that came out of church today that you could make a whole, like, a good comedian who's not me could make a whole routine out of a Catholic church session.
Oh, easily. Do you think that's why so many people, like old people, go to church though? Because they like you said, they make the noises that like most resemble death, and they're like,
Oh,
"Oh, if I'm at church while I die, like I am gonna skip purgatory. I'm going straight to heaven."
so the funniest thing that you said today was like, I told Ben I was going to a first communion, and then I texted him about this old lady coffin, and he goes, "This could be her last communion," and I was like, "Yes, this it. She might be dead right now. That was her last communion. It was incredible."
I love it. Did you talk? You talked about the Lions, right?
Yeah, they're going under 6.5 wins because they stink, and they're drafting a quarterback next year.
I like it. So I got them going 5-11 actually. I'd have to say under for podcast purposes, but it's likely a no bet for me. I've said this a million times on the podcast. I want to love this team. For some reason, I still have a soft spot for Matt Stafford. Always been a huge Kerryon Johnson fan. Really been a Kenny Galladay fan. Like, I want it to work. But man, at some point, like, I always thought it would click at some point for Stafford in this offense, and they would just be like one of like the top teams. It's never happened, and I'm getting with you now. Like, there were rumors about maybe like Stafford being traded this last offseason. So I don't think you're too far off with that claim about maybe this being it for Stafford's time in Detroit. It's almost like they are making moves to better themselves for the future rather than to try to win now, because I can't really I can't wrap my brain around that TJ Hawkinson pick still. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many needs, but yet they drafted a tight end on a team that notoriously just ignores tight ends and has tried to take a first round
Oh
tight
yeah.
end in the past, and it didn't work out. I don't know why they're doing it that way. But for me right now, this team has just too many holes. The rest of the division has just basically seemed to lap them. I got to go under here. I'm with you.
Yeah, some team in the NFC or AFC in the NFL should look forward to getting a pretty good tight end that the Detroit Lions use wrong in about 4 or 5 years.
Give it 5 years. TJ Hawkinson's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, exactly. When he's on the Colts again, when he moved on to the Colts now.
Book it. Let's go to the NFC South, our last division of this podcast. The Saints are set at 10.5.
I mean, 10.5 is high, but I've got to go over, and here's why. I said last year when it came to the Super Bowl, the best team isn't in the Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean, obviously the Rams won on some garbage shit with the penalty and everything like that. I think the Saints would have run away and beat the shit out of the Patriots, honestly, but we will never know, so I can make that claim and people will be like, well, Bob, they weren't there. Well, yeah, but they were still the best team. If you have any eyes and any brain, in my heart of hearts, I think the Packers are going to be the best, like, scariest team in the NFL after, but we're using my brain and watching the Saints. Saints are not just the best team in the NFC; they are the best team in the NFL still because they have basically the same roster. You can see their defense ranked. You know, they fucking started dominating again in the second half of the season like they did the year before. They're so complete with Michael Thomas. They have Traquan, whatever, the wide receiver Smith.
Yep.
They've got Alvin Kamara. Obviously, they don't have Mark Ingram anymore, but now Alvin Kamara can be highlighted that much more. Honestly, I think in fantasy football rankings, and for some reason when I was talking and looking at running backs, Alvin Kamara should be like top 5 or top 3-ish in that area when it comes to running backs. For some reason, I haven't seen a lot of his name out there when looking at tweets and stuff, but maybe I'm just missing it. But yeah, NFC, best team in the NFL, New Orleans, I got to go over 10.5. They're just too good.
Yeah, I talked about my second favorite bet in the NFC. Well, here it is. This is my number one. I'm with you. I'm going over. I predicted them at 13 wins. I ranked them number one in my power rankings article, which you can find on loadedboxpodcast.com. Ranked all 32 teams 1 to 32. You don't have to look far to find the Saints. They are right on top. So if you're a Saints fan, you're welcome. You don't have to scroll any farther after that. You mentioned losing Mark Ingram. They replaced him with a plenty capable back in Latavius Murray. And it's not even that Latavius Murray's all that good. It's that Alvin Kamara is that good. And all you need at this point is like a change of the pace guy, a guy that can eat up some carries, and that's what Latavius Murray can bring you. They continue to improve on defense. Like they're making like just enough moves to improve. Remember when the Saints, like it was Drew Brees like basically having to carry the team. No running game, just breeze, breeze, breeze. Well, now all of a sudden you see a running game come into play. You see a defense that continues to improve every year. And it's just making Drew Brees all that much better because he's asked to do less. So I love the Saints right now. Man, the NFC South has just seemed to be like a tough team to predict. Basically, the last few years, Atlanta and Carolina look like they could be teams every single year that like certain weeks you're like that's a playoff team, like that's a team that can compete. And then the next week they're like, wow, that's a team that's like destined for a top 10 pick. You just don't know how to predict those. So I think in this division, the Saints are the safest team. 10.5 is a lot of wins for Vegas to set a team. But man, this is a team that should definitely hit 11 to like 13 wins. So my number one bet, New Orleans Saints. I'm taking them over.
This is incredible. Sorry, I was looking at some golf pool I'm in, and I fell from first to fourth in like seconds, and now I'm pissed. And now I'm not going to win any money.
Start at the top, now you're at the bottom.
All right, Atlanta is where we're moving on to?
Atlanta, 8.5.
So this number is kind of low, it seems like. But when you know my feelings for Matt Ryan.
Sure
Since
do.
the number seems low for a team with talent, I was going to go under no matter what. But now that I see that the number is set a little lower than a team that has as much talent as Atlanta should, I'm going under. Because it's opposite of what I think. I think they should be at least 9, if not 9. Yeah, I think they should be at least 9. That half point makes me kind of weirded out. So I'm going under. But the biggest reason I'm going under is just because Matt Ryan exists. Like, I will never trust Matt Ryan again for as long as I live. So I'm going to pick under because I just don't like. He's not Ben Roethlisberger to me, but he's like next tier. Like, I hate him. I can't trust him. I'll never trust him again. I'll never draft him. Fuck Matt Ryan for the rest of my life.
You were even saying that during his MVP season, which blew my mind. Because remember, he kind of had that year where he just blew up and just led the team to the Super Bowl and everything. You never got off that horse. I'm impressed by that.
Yeah, I hate him.
Yeah, 8.5 seems very appropriate for this team. I'm going to go over. We're going to have another difference here. I had them going 10-6. I'm a little hesitant, though, because the Falcons are just like the 49ers, in my opinion, where I really want to like them, but there's just something where it like doesn't click. That Super Bowl year, yeah, everything clicked. It all came together. They ended up blowing the lead. They didn't win at all, but hell of a team. That was a really good team. But look at what they did in the draft. They added 2 first-round offensive linemen. They desperately needed help there. Matt Ryan is one of those quarterbacks as well that like you just need to protect him. You need to give him time to take advantage of the players that he has. Because, man, you've got Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley right now. Like, Julio's still, like, prime of his career. Calvin is obviously only a second-year guy, but he already, like, flashed a little bit as a rookie. This is the duo that could be the best in the wide receiver duo in the entire league this year. Like, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. I love those 2 guys. I see you making a face at me. Doesn't matter. I love those 2 guys. They are great. But here's the X factor I have for the Falcons, and it's the health of Devontae Freeman because they need him to stay healthy so bad. They need him to return to being like a 12 to 1,300 yard running back. They need him to hit double-digit touchdowns, especially now Tevin Coleman's out of the picture. You have Ito Smith, who did okay last year, but you need Freeman. Like, Freeman is – it wasn't too long ago. Freeman was like a guaranteed like top like 8 running back in the league, and he's basically fell off the last 2 years. They need to bring him back. It'll make Ryan better. It'll make Julio and Calvin better. Maybe even Julio gets like 7 touchdowns this year. Like, he could set like a new career high. Like, that's how confident I am in this team. I got to go over.
He had, 6 last year?
I don't even know. I think at one point he did maybe hit like close to double digits. But
I think he hit. Yeah, he got a few more in last year. It started adding on some touchdowns at the end of the year last year. Whoa,
that was a hell of a noise. You should have went to church today and not made fun of people.
That was a hiccup and a burp and some other shit.
You want to move on to the Panthers?
Let's do it.
Carolina, over-under set at 8. How you feeling?
I think the over-under is set a little low because of I think people are going to forget that Cam Newton's shoulder was garbage last year. I don't know if you remember, but Cam Newton couldn't throw the ball over 20 fucking yards. I got so confused. I'm like, why can't he throw it anywhere? The shoulder was a real issue. I think he's giving it actual time to rest this year. He will come back and have that cannon that he had we remember how good Cam Newton's arm was.
Oh, he could thread it, man.
It looked like it looked like someone was always pulling on his arm as he was trying to throw it. It was unbelievable. So I think he's going to get that arm strength back. He's still that quarterback who can, like, not many guys can, like, actually continue to run the option in the NFL and make it work good, but he's so big and athletic and talented that he can just keep doing it, and that's what makes him so good. And then he has Christian McCaffrey, who's a monster. Obviously, they've lost some wide receiver talent. Right now, they really only have DJ Moore, I think, is the guy, and I think you saw their chemistry get better, so I think he's gonna end up and finishing fantasy football a little bit higher than what you'd think. But the most important thing for Cam is Greg Olsen. I think the tight end's the number one thing in his life, and then having Christian McCaffrey double as running back and a pass catcher.
Right.
And their defense is going to continue to be good. I think they actually, with him being fully recovered from his shoulder injury this year and not looking like such a piece of shit, which was what killed them last year, I think you see them more around 10 wins and actually they will try. They won't catch the Saints, but they will be right on their butt, and I think they might make a wild card position in the playoffs this year.
All right, we're finally going to agree. I've got them going 9-7. I'm going to take the over, just barely, obviously, since it's at 8. So I'm not super confident in this one. I love Christian McCaffrey, but here's the question, man. Are they going to kill him due to a touches overdose? Like, that dude is going to get the ball every single which way, and he's going to get it a lot. I legit, going through those fantasy rankings that we're about to post on loadedboxpodcast.com, one more plug, I wanted to make him my RB1 just because he is going to be the king of volume this year. He's going to be the guy, especially in any PPR, half PPR type leagues. The dude is going to be a stud. You're going to see him in daily fantasy, continuing to pace the position. He's going to be an expensive use every single week. But here's the thing. He's young, as we saw on that picture that released where he started looking like me in the gym. He's kind of roided up now. He might get popped at some point here for a ban, which I don't like. But man, he is young. He can bounce back from all that stuff. He just looks like a monster out there. So I'm not super worried about him being too burnt out. But man, here's my claim though for the Panthers. I think I'm more confident in McCaffrey being RB1 in fantasy football than I am in taking either side of this Panthers over-under bet. But since that's what we're here for today, give me the over. Just a small play, though.
Yep.
One more team, DJ. And I can't believe we should have changed this up so we didn't have to talk about a really depressing team on the last team of this podcast.
I love it.
All right, I'll let you do it then. 6.5 over-under for the Tampa Bay Bucks.
I don't hate this team. They still have talent, right? They have Mike Evans. Chris Godwin's good. I still think James Winston could be a solid, but they still have Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard was a monster for the 10 games that he did play.
I like him.
Like that. He was a fantasy football beast. He's awesome. Cameron Brate, both their tight ends had some injury problems, but I think the biggest hurt for them, obviously, Jason Pierre-Paul is maybe the most unlucky or maybe just dumb off-field
Who's had a more interesting last decade than Jason Pierre-Paul?
I mean, he blew his fingers off, but he got into a car accident, which would be fine if there was somebody else involved. There was no other cars; it was just his car. So who knows what actually happened?
Probably lost grip of the wheel.
He's just probably he shouldn't be driving with only 2 fingers, right? But he's probably not going to play the entire year with a broken neck. But they've added Devin.
You make it sound so nonchalant, not like he clipped his nail wrong or something. He might not play all year with a broken neck.
They've added Devin White and linebacker.
I like that.
My boy Levante David just dominating. The one thing I really hate about this defense, and I got to talk about it. I didn't like Clinton Dix, but they added Kentrell Bryce, who, if you've ever watched Kentrell Bryce in your life,
oh yeah,
this guy fucking cannot get off his heels. He can't do it. He'll hit really hard, which is cool, I guess, every now and then. But if there's a zone defense and he has to cover one guy running deep, he's gone. That guy's gone. Because Kentrell Bryce, he just stands. It's like he's stuck in quicksand, and a guy just runs by him. Watching that guy is the most frustrating safety play in the history of football. It's where are you watching? He just wants to run forward and make a hit and never run backwards. So that's going to kill him. Besides that, though, I still haven't made a pick in my head, so I'm just talking a little bit. I don't have any running backs. I like James Winston. I like their offense. I'm gonna just take a risk and I'm gonna say over because I just gotta
Ooh.
give them. I don't think Jameis might be a little more confident this year now that he knows that he doesn't have to worry about getting benched 2 games after he gets a start, and it's not this back and forth game. He's the quarterback. This is the year. I said that last year, but it was such a weird year. This is his chance. He has no challenger at this point. Blaine Gabbert isn't going to come in and start this year unless he gets hurt.
Well, I guess I got to keep it true to this podcast form and just have a difference in opinion with you here because I'm predicting more than 3 more like losses than what Vegas has them for wins. Vegas has them set at 6.5. I'm giving them 3 wins. I'm not a huge fan of the bet though for a lot of the reasons you said. But obviously going to go under here. I can't take the over on this bet. This team, to me, just sort of still seems a little bit like a mess. And I think they're kind of just grasping for hope right now with Jameis Winston and kind of like delaying the inevitable for the simple reason that a lot of people out there think Bruce Arians can be the answer for Jameis Winston.
That's going to be fun, too. I think that'll be a good matchup.
I'm with you on the whole liking Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in fantasy, but we've seen it before where receivers can survive and put up good fantasy seasons with quarterbacks that aren't so great.
Jameis can let it go, though. He wants to throw the ball downfield. That's where he's at his best.
Yeah, that's where he's going to throw a lot of interceptions, I think, as well. Like he's going to be throwing a lot because they're going to be playing from behind.
When they're deep downfield, man, you live by the gun, you die by the gun. At least they're deep throws nowadays.
that is true. I like that. I can't compete with a Tupac reference of all things. But you mentioned it with the defense. That defense has holes. The offense has question marks at offensive line, at running back. Still don't like that Rojo pick. I don't understand that one. But this team, just like what we said with the NFC North, it kind of seems like there's 3 teams that are up here. And if you can't see me because you're listening to this podcast, my hands are it's like I'm holding a sandwich right above my forehead. And then you've got like the Lions in the NFC North and the Bucks in the NFC South down here. And now I have the sandwich like by my stomach. So, yeah, I just feel like these teams have been lapped. I think we're going to see it. I think that this season is going to be a bit of a failure for Arians, for Winston, and we're going to have a complete blow-up, and we're going to see a much different team in 2020. There it is.
I think you're going to be surprised. I think there'll be a team that surprised some people this year.
You know what's also a surprise? We talked about that pre-podcast Twitter poll, and you were going to go with Andrew Drunk, a.k.a. Andrew Luck. Some more people have sided with you since we started this podcast. It went from Rob Gronkowski at 68% to Rob Gronkowski 61%. So you kind of like threw like a mental game here since we're not live right now. People are starting to agree with you. Andrew Drunk.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was hoping I convinced people with my convincing argument, but nobody can hear me. So hopefully I just throw some good juju out there, I guess.
And by the time anyone hears this, the poll will have been closed. So
fuck it.
Not going to matter. You have anything else you want to contribute other than that burp?
No, I'm cold, man.
I bet you are. It's no shirt Sunday. So ladies Sunday. Especially, make sure you try to partake in that.
Yes.
Check us out on Twitter at LoadedBox. Check out our website. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but it's loadedboxpodcast.com. We're about to have our fantasy rankings up there. We have all of our podcasts, all of our articles. Everything you need is going to be either there or at loadedbox.com. So bookmark those 2 sites. Our next episode, I'm so excited for our next episode. I don't even want to give too much away because it's going to feature a guest and it's going to feature a game that we play with this particular guest. And it's the 2nd annual game that we're playing here. I'm not going to give anything else away for now, but I'm pumped up for that one. As always, available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Subscribe, rate, review. DJ, send us away.
Bye.
The answer is 10.